Joining us now in his first TV interview since having effectively been fired by the president, I hate to put it that way, Rohit, is former CFPB Director Rohit Chopra. Welcome, and thank you for joining us.
Thanks so much for having me.
Are you employed right now?
I'm not. It's been just a few days since I wrapped up my time as head of the CFPB. And really what was in flight was a lot of big investigations over large companies, banks, non-banks, big tech companies who we thought might be breaking the law. So the news about really law enforcement being told to stand down, I'm really worried that this is just not going to be fair for all those mortgage lenders and banks and others who are following the law and are going to have to compete with those who just think they're above the law.
So was this a surprise? Or I mean, we've known for years now, and people have been unhappy with the creation of the CFPB. This goes back to the financial crisis. It was created in the wake in 2010, I believe, and it was basically funded through the Federal Reserve or held accountable through the Federal Reserve. In other words, not through Congress and not through the people's power of the purse. Was that original sin why we ended up in this situation today?
Well, actually, every single federal banking regulator is funded through a dedicated funding system. And part of the reason why was to limit some of the political interference. Now, look, at the end of the day, we should want to make sure that the CFPB is actually a strong cop on the beat. Because there was no agency focused on some of this, that's part of the reason we had a subprime mortgage meltdown. So I'm not really sure it makes sense to want to just put away a CFPB. It seems like you're almost baiting another crisis.
That may be the case. But again, going back to whether there's other agencies that can or should be doing this work, what would you say were the most consequential actions taken by the CFPB in its 14, 15-year history?
Well, certainly we have uncovered over the years some major meltdowns and scandals, including the Wells Fargo fake account scandal, the return of billions of dollars of people who had been defrauded, but also some of the real plumbing of the financial system, making sure that data is protected, making sure that credit reports are accurate. These are things that are not controversial anywhere except for in Washington and perhaps by those on Wall Street and Silicon Valley who don't necessarily want to play by the same rules as Main Street banks and lenders. We have to make sure there is meaningful oversight, and we know that large tech companies are eager to get into payments and banking. It's one of the reasons why the CFPB has put more focus on how they handle data and payments to make sure there isn't errors and fraud and surveillance. And, you know, we'll see how this plays out. But at the end of the day, the work of the CFPB has been welcomed by people no matter what their political stripes are.
You mentioned some active work that's ongoing. Which agencies or which parts of the government are likely to pick up? If they pick up, where would that go? You know, agencies like the SEC? I mean, there's plenty of existing ones, the DOJ.
Good question. Good question. The law gives exclusive enforcement authority on so many of these laws to the CFPB. So if there is nobody enforcing at the federal level, it is really unclear how this is going to work. And we lived that before in the years leading up to the financial crisis. There was no one really responsible, especially for those companies that were not chartered as banks in the mortgage market, payday lending, and others. So I don't know. I really don't know who would do it, because the law that Congress has passed has assigned to the CFPB that oversight work.